Alright, Miss Shah. I have terminal cancer. I can live until the Mid-Autumn Festival. I have a bit of money, and I am an orphan. Do I meet your requirements? The woman sitting opposite me looked me up and down, checking the cancer report I handed over. Finally, she nodded with satisfaction. She is my girlfriend, but she no longer recognizes me. During the more than half a year I disappeared, I went to get plastic surgery. A while ago, I heard she was looking for someone to marry and proposed 3 requirements. The other party must be an orphan. Must live until the Mid-Autumn Festival. Having money is better. These requirements were entirely based on me as the standard to find a substitute. Except for the second condition though. Of course, now I fit the second condition too. After putting down the report, she asked me with some confusion. Your conditions are so good, do you really agree to these unreasonable requests? I waved my ID card with my changed name and said, let's go. We got our marriage certificate that very day, and I brought her to move into my place. She walked around the house to inspect it, then solemnly told me, from now on, we sleep in separate rooms. We will divorce after the Mid-Autumn Festival. Assets remain separate. During the marriage, we can each play our own games. I asked, why divorce after the Mid-Autumn Festival? And if you don't want assets, why look for someone rich? She said faintly, for the atmosphere. You don't mind raising a pet, do you? I shook my head. I don't mind. After discussing everything, she waved her hand and went out. I walked to the bathroom mirror and carefully examined this face of mine. Chiesuer's greedy and lustful personality seems to have changed. Facing this face of mine, which is even more handsome than before, she actually proposed sleeping in separate rooms and didn't want any assets. A few months ago, the flight I was supposed to take crashed. Fortunately, I wasn't on the plane, but on the way there, I got into a serious car accident that resulted in disfigurement. However, my girlfriend Chiesuer thought I was already dead. After successfully getting plastic surgery and wanting to find her, I was diagnosed with cancer. Not wanting her to endure the pain of losing me again, I hid away to quietly wait for death. But then I heard she was looking for a substitute. Seeing that she hadn't let go of me, I decided to accompany her for one last journey, because I missed her very much too. In the evening, after I made dinner, the sound of the lock turning came from outside. After the door opened, a small dog followed my scent and ran towards me. He pawed at my pant leg, whining and whimpering. This was the dog I raised. Chiesuer quickly ran over and picked the dog up, apologizing. I'm sorry, my dog used to be very afraid of strangers. I don't know what's wrong today. She reached out and patted the dog's head. Potato, why are you being so naughty today? The dog in her arms was still struggling, barking and whining towards me. I reached out to take him. Your name is Potato. I am Jiang Chen. Seeing Potato nuzzling in my arms, Chiesuer didn't say anything more. Instead, she turned to look at the food on the table, lost in thought. I spoke up. Let's eat together. I'll go settle. Potato down, you eat first. Chiesuer nodded. After settling Potato, I washed my hands and walked to the dining table. Chiesuer was burying her head in her food. Seeing me sit down, she looked up at me, her eyes slightly red. Jiang Chen. Did you make this yourself? I nodded. Her eyes lowered slightly. Jiang Wan. The taste is very similar to his cooking. My hand holding the vegetables paused in the air. I cleared my throat and said, I learned it from online tutorials. Who is he? She said coldly. It's nothing. It's very delicious. Due to feeling unwell, I fell asleep right after dinner. It was now 2 a.m. A dim light came from the balcony. I walked over and saw Chiesuer sitting alone on the balcony drinking wine. I sat next to her and asked, why aren't you asleep yet? Staying up late isn't good. She looked at me with blurry eyes. The next second, she threw herself into my arms, slurring indistinctly. Jiang Wan, you liar. I froze in fear. Jiang Wan was my previous name. My gaze fell on the half-empty red wine bottle on the table, and I breathed a sigh of relief. I thought I had been discovered. This woman usually passes out after one glass. Drinking this much, she must be drunk. If it were anyone else, she would definitely be done for tonight. I picked her up and walked towards the room, whispering, you can't handle your liquor but love to drink. When we got to the bed, she hugged me tighter, greedily inhaling the scent on my body, whimpering. Jiang Wan, I miss you so much. You said you would propose to me on the Mid-Autumn Festival. My nose felt sour. It turned out she just needed someone to accompany her through this year's Mid-Autumn Festival to fulfill our shared dream. Once it's over, it's best if we never interact again until death. Finding a terminally ill patient also avoids a lot of trouble. This girl is both stupid and smart. After finally dropping her onto the bed, I sat by the bedside looking at her, reaching out to brush the hair from her forehead. My woman is truly beautiful. She turned over, smacked her lips, and fell into a deep sleep. Her sleeping posture hasn't changed a bit. After returning to my room, I took out a marker and put a cross on today's date in the calendar. I can still stay with her for 28 days. Hiss. A piercing pain came from my body. It was acting up again. I quickly took out painkillers and swallowed them. Half an hour later, the pain in my body slowly faded, leaving only clothes soaked in cold sweat. I grabbed a towel and went to the bathroom to take a shower. While washing my hair, I felt something slide across my back. I hurriedly rinsed the foam from my eyes. Turning around, holy crap. Are you trying to scare someone to death? Chia Shuer, with disheveled hair, was running her finger across my back. She didn't seem sober yet. She said, "Butterfly bones. You have butterfly bones too. You look so much like him." This idiot. I told her many times that those two bones on the back are called scapula. She insisted on saying they looked like butterflies. I pushed her out of the door, quickly dried my body, put on clothes, and carried her back to her room again. She still wanted to reach out and hug me. I pinned her hands down and pretended to be angry. "Don't move. Sleep." Finally, she settled down. After confirming she was asleep, I returned to my room, locked the door, lay in bed, and fell asleep instantly. Early the next morning, I was woken up by knocking on the door. Opening it, Xia Shuer stood at the door with an angry face. She shoved her phone in my face and questioned, "What did you do last night while I was drunk?" On the screen was the footage of me carrying her out of the bathroom. I explained. "You were drunk last night and came in while I was taking a shower." Halfway through speaking, I realized something was wrong. "Xia Shuer, you installed surveillance in my house." Her eyes dodged slightly, pretending to be calm. "So what? In case you wanted to do something to me." Still a bit smart. I coughed and looked at her. "Do you think with this body of mine, I can do anything to you?" She looked at me, nodded, and said, "True. You pay attention next time, don't try to take advantage of me." After saying that, she went out, telling me she wouldn't be back for dinner. I smiled helplessly. I want to, but I lack the strength. At 12 a.m., she still hadn't come home. Calls to her phone went unanswered. I started to get worried. I took out my phone, logged into the built-in Find My function, and signed into her account. In the past, she always said this was convenient for checking each other's movements at any time, so we used to share this account. After logging in, the locator showed her position near a bar. Thinking of how she looked drunk last night, I immediately grabbed my clothes and headed to the bar. I searched the bar twice but couldn't see her, yet the GPS was right nearby. I squatted at the entrance, watching people coming in and out. Half an hour later, I saw her being supported out of the bar by a man. She was resisting and struggling somewhat. I rushed up to take her away. The man didn't let me take her easily. After a fight at the entrance, battered and bruised, I finally got Xia Shuer back into the car. Looking at her sleeping soundly on my lap, I felt a bit terrible. If I hadn't found her tonight, what would have happened to her? The pain in my body started to flare up again, and there was no medicine in the car. Unknowingly, I passed out from the pain. I felt some pain at the corner of my mouth. Opening my eyes, Xia Shuer was reaching out to touch my wound. Sunlight was already shining into the car. Looking at Xia Shuer in front of me, looking like she just woke up from a hangover. A fire of anger rose in my heart. Seeing me wake up, she asked, "Why are you injured? Why are we here?" I pushed her hand away and said sternly, "Drunk twice in 2 days. Do you know what the consequences would be right now, if it weren't for me?" Xia Shuer was stunned, then said coldly, "Jiang Chen, we are just a fake couple. I don't need you to manage me." I couldn't hold back and shouted loudly, "You don't need me to manage you. Then you have to learn to protect yourself. I can't look after you for much longer." She trembled in fright and cast a baffled look at me. "Who do you think you are? What right do you have to speak loudly to me?" I lowered my voice. "Shut up, fasten your seatbelt, going home." Her eyes became less sharp. She obediently fastened her seatbelt and didn't speak again. After returning home, Potato wagged his tail and rushed towards me. I took a ham sausage from the drawer to feed him. Xia Shuer walked to the side and said, "Jiang Chen, I'm hungry. My tightly furrowed brows relaxed slightly. Seeing I ignored her, she poked my shoulder with her finger. I'll drink less in the future. I still didn't pay attention to her. She continued, Okay, I won't drink anymore in the future. I sighed, handed her the ham sausage. Is noodles okay? You feed potato. After serving the noodles to her, she paused, then began to wolf it down. I said, I won't be back for the next few days. Don't go drinking anymore. She buried her head in the noodles. Seeing her agree so readily, I didn't really believe it. Anyway, there is GPS. If she really steals a drink, I can find her. After packing my clothes, I headed to the hospital. I had to undergo the first chemotherapy session. Otherwise, I wouldn't last until the Mid-Autumn Festival. After chemotherapy, my body was very weak. Lying in the hospital bed in a daze, Xiaoshuer walked in. She sat by my bed and choked with sobs. Who exactly are you? I struggled to sit up, reached out to touch her forehead, and chuckled softly. Silly, I am Jiang Chen. How did you know I was here? She took a deep breath, quickly took out her phone, tapped on the screen, opened the Find My function, and shoved the screen in front of my eyes. On the screen, the locations of the two phones were right next to each other. She sobbed. No third person knows this password. You are Jiang Wan, aren't you? Jiang Wan. Jiang Wan. Who is Jiang Wan? She shouted loudly. Can you please stop pretending? I scoffed. This location tracking was set up in the memo of the previous owner of this phone I bought. It must be a second-hand phone. After speaking, I opened the memo in the phone to show her. Luckily, I also had the habit of keeping memos before. She continued. Then why did you log into his ID account? I heard that day you logged yours out and forgot the password. There was no other way. I'm sick and my memory is bad, so I just used the ready-made one. She took the phone, continuing to sob. Then how do you explain that the food you cook is the same as his? You also put chicken fat and chili when cooking noodles. I tried to change the subject. Wait, who is he? She recounted the story of her and me by the bedside, but I still listened with relish. After she finished, I showed her the cooking tutorials and the chicken fat chili noodle tutorial saved on my phone. She said, Is it really such a coincidence? Look at my face. Is it him? She stared at me in a daze, then lowered her eyes in disappointment. True. You aren't him. Half a month later, I was discharged from the hospital. Back home, I took out the marker. There were 10 days left until the Mid-Autumn Festival. Recently, she has changed a lot. She really hasn't gone drinking again, and even started taking the initiative to cook, although the taste is really hard to eat. While I was watering the plants on the balcony, Xiaoshuer's crying screams came from the living room. I turned my head. She was rushing towards me holding Potato. Jiang Chen, hurry to the hospital, Potato. He collapsed on the floor and won't move no matter how I call him. We quickly rushed to the hospital. The vet began emergency treatment. Xiaoshuer cried anxiously, muttering, This is what he left me. Potato cannot have an accident too. I reached out and patted her back, hoping she could calm down. Seeing this, my decision was right. If she cries like this over Potato, how cruel would it be to her if I revealed myself and then left again? A moment later, the doctor walked out solemnly and announced that the rescue was ineffective. Xiaoshuer staggered back, then ran to Potato's side. Potato, even you don't want me anymore. Xiaoshuer stroked Potato's fur, speaking softly. Potato was 9 years old. Passing away is a normal phenomenon. Don't be too sad. Potato will feel bad seeing this. I could only comfort her like this. I was also very sad about Potato passing away. After all, I had raised him since he was born. After handling Potato's funeral affairs, Xiaoshuer's mood was somewhat low, and she spoke less and less. I could only quietly accompany her. A few nights later, while sleeping, I received a call from the traffic police. Is this Xiaoshuer's husband? Your wife is currently in the hospital, please come over. When I arrived at the hospital, she was lying in the hospital bed, not yet awake, with injuries on her head. The doctor said she had a car accident. Fortunately, she was rescued in time. I looked at her with heartache. I inquired about the situation on the day of the accident, retrieved the surveillance footage, and checked the car. It was indeed an accident. But with Xiaoshuer's driving skills, it was impossible for her to have an accident at that location and hit a utility pole. So, she wanted to commit suicide. For the first time, I felt powerless. On the day she was discharged, I took her to the seaside, set up a tent, and took her to relax. She seemed happy all day. In the evening, sitting around the campfire, I asked her why she wanted to commit suicide. The smile on her face froze. She said, "I miss him, Jiang Chen. If I were your boyfriend, I wouldn't even be at peace to reincarnate." Xia Shuer. You cannot be so selfish. Her eyes became lifeless, and she started to sob. Then what should I do? I really miss him. Now even Potato doesn't want me. I told her. My neighbor used to be an old granny. When she was young, she also had a boyfriend who passed away. She couldn't bear it and thought about dying for love. Xia Shuer instantly got energized and asked me what happened next. I continued telling her. The granny told me that when the seawater submerged the top of her head, she was saved by someone. That person told her that as long as she said the opposite of what she meant to the sea, her boyfriend would turn into someone else and continue to love her. The granny believed it, and finally met someone who treated her well. Now she has children and granddaughters and has settled abroad. After finishing, Xia Shuer asked, "You believe that?" I pointed to the sea in front of us. "Why don't you try? Say the opposite of what you want to say to your boyfriend." She stood up and quickly ran to the seaside. She turned her head to look around to ensure no one was there, took a deep breath, and made a motion like she wanted to shout but dared not. I rolled my eyes at her. "You aren't afraid of suicide. What are you afraid of now?" Shout it out loud, as if your boyfriend can hear it. After preparing herself, she shouted to the sea, "I don't miss you at all. You don't need to become someone else to love me. I hate you." Listening to these words, she said, I silently answered in my heart, "Let's just assume she isn't saying the opposite. That way, when I leave, I can feel a bit lighter too." She turned her head to look at me. "Where is he? Didn't you say my boyfriend would turn into someone else to love me?" "Idiot, it's me." Seeing my eyes getting a bit moist, she walked towards me in confusion, leaned close to my face, and said, "You aren't jealous, are you?" I pushed her head away. A bright smile appeared on her face, which had just been smoked by the fire. She said to me, "Thank you. Although it's a lie, I feel much better after shouting it out. I didn't lie to you. I didn't say this sentence out loud." She was very happy that night. The depression on her face from before was swept away. She even told me she wanted to live well in the future. She leaned on my shoulder and slowly fell asleep, muttering, "Being by your side always feels especially safe. Feels very familiar." Early the next morning, when we returned home, my shoulder was very sore from being leaned on all night, so I went back to my room to rest. At noon, I was woken up by her. She was sitting by my bed, holding a spatula, waiting for me to open my eyes. She asked, "Can you tell me your recipe for cooking noodles and dishes?" I rubbed my sleepy eyes and said, "If you want to eat, I'll just make it for you. I'm afraid that after you leave, I'll never be able to eat it again. The taste you make is very similar to his." She looked at me seriously. In a trance, I really wanted to reach out and hug her, really wanted to be selfish one more time. The hand hiding under the blanket, clenched into a fist, loosened. "Okay, I'll teach you now." She learned very seriously based on my narration. In the past, I always said I wanted to eat a meal made by her for me. She always acted coquettishly, saying it was enough to have one person in the family who could cook. After tasting the 8th bowl of noodles she cooked, I nodded with satisfaction. For the first time in all these days, I saw light in her eyes. She happily held the spatula and draped herself over me, saying, "This way, if I miss him in the future, I can taste the flavor related to him anytime." I smiled bitterly and placated her. Right, right, right. In the evening, while taking a walk together, her footsteps stopped in front of a wedding dress shop. I stood beside her, accompanying her to look at the wedding dress in the display window. If it were before, I would definitely have taken her hand, gone inside, and bought this wedding dress. The current me isn't qualified. A moment later, she spoke up beside me. "Can I add one more requirement?" I said softly. "Speak. On the Mid-Autumn Festival, can you give me a marriage proposal?" I lowered my head and pondered for a moment. "Is that what he promised you?" She nodded. I smiled and said, "All right. Thank you, Jiang Chen. I'm very curious. Why did you agree to so many unreasonable requests to marry me? You aren't bad-looking either." I raised an eyebrow at her. "You let me experience marriage before I die, and now you're letting me experience a proposal. I haven't lived in vain." She told me that after the proposal is finished, once it passes 12 a.m., we can go get a divorce. She won't disturb me anymore. After returning home from the walk, I took out the proposal ring from the lining of my suit, the one I had bought long ago. The door opened. I quickly hid the ring. Xiaoshuer, holding a pillow, asked me, "Can I sleep with you tonight?" Seeing my surprised look, she raised her hand to promise she wouldn't touch me. Of course, I wanted to. Although I felt a bit disappointed deep down after all, she doesn't know I am her boyfriend. I also know this is a necessary step for me to let go. She will have to find someone in the future anyway. The room became very quiet. I could hear my heartbeat and her steady breathing. The pain in my body didn't flare up today. Indeed, love is medicine for the weak. Jiang Chen. Can you hold me while we sleep? Her voice came from beside my ear. I took a deep breath and opened my arms. She leaned into my chest, following my increasingly rapid heartbeat. She giggled. "You're so noisy." I coughed with a burning face. "You are too cruel to a sick patient." She laughed softly. Unknowingly, I also fell asleep. When I woke up the next day, she was no longer by my side. After washing up, I stood on the balcony breathing fresh air. I saw a black car parked downstairs. A man stood by the car holding a bouquet of flowers to give to Xiaoshuer. It seemed he got rejected again. I recognize this man. His family background isn't bad, but his character is poor. Before I was with Xiaoshuer, he had already pursued her for 2 years. When discussing business in the past, I had seen this man with women in each arm, and I had warned her to stay far away from him. Cough, cough, cough. A taste of blood came from my throat, and I couldn't help coughing out loud. Xiaoshuer glanced toward the window. Turning back, she accepted the man's flowers. Truly a stupid woman. I put on my coat and ran downstairs, walking up to the two of them. I grabbed Xiaoshuer's wrist. "Come with me." The man blocked me and asked who I was. I looked up and said, "I am her husband." The man smiled with contempt. "So you are that dying contract husband who met Xiaoshuer's requirements?" I looked this man up and down, not wanting to say much to him. Xiaoshuer was actually obedient and followed me toward the house. Turning my head, I saw the flowers in her hand, grabbed them, and threw them into the trash can. The man was still shouting behind me. "I'll wait for your divorce." Back home, Xiaoshuer asked me why I was so angry. I said, "If you want to find someone, find a good man. The one just now won't do." "How do you know he won't do? Do you know him?" She lifted my chin with her hand, looking at me with a teasing face. I paused, then said, "A man can understand another man at a glance." Xiaoshuer pouted. "I thought my boyfriend turned into him to love me." Seeing my silence, Xiaoshuer kept chasing after me, asking if I was jealous. I ignored her. A strong smell of blood attacked my throat again. I couldn't hold it back and sprayed a mouthful of fresh blood. Xiaoshuer, who was just teasing me, was frightened and immediately supported me to go to the hospital. She pulled me towards the door. I waved my hand weakly. "It's fine. It's useless to go." I walked towards the room, signaling her to let me rest for a while. Sitting at the desk, I picked up the calendar and looked at it. 2 days left until the Mid-Autumn Festival. After the Mid-Autumn Festival, we will divorce. That's good. I guess my time is about up too. The next day, I went out alone and found Bo Yi, the doctor who performed my plastic surgery. Seeing my weak state, he sighed. Bo Yi said, "After you leave, I will take care of Xiaoshuer for you." I waved my hand, looking at his face which now closely resembled mine, and said, "I believe you can treat her well." After the accident back then, the doctor who performed my surgery made me look very much like him. Of course, it wasn't a conspiracy, but because my facial proportions were only suitable for this kind of reconstruction. After recovering from the surgery, I discovered I looked more and more like him. He had secretly loved Xiaoshuer for many years. They hadn't spoken, but being possessive, I had discovered his existence long ago. Their encounter happened during Bo Yi's lowest point. He met Xiaoshuer, who helped him by the roadside. In Xiaoshuer's eyes, it was just a fleeting encounter, so she didn't remember him at all. But he had helped Xiaoshuer a lot behind the scenes. After I leave, he will continue to protect Xiaoshuer. Whether they can be together depends on fate. After all, I really can't rest easy about this woman. After saying goodbye to Bo Yi, I went to the venue where I would propose to Xiaoshuer tomorrow. I confirmed the decorations were satisfactory and returned home. My body was getting more and more exhausted. Looking at the cardiotonic in the drawer, I guess I'll have to rely on it to complete the proposal tomorrow. I took out the marker and put a cross on the calendar. Tomorrow is the Mid-Autumn Festival. Xie still slept in my room tonight. While she was sound asleep, I leaned over and kissed her forehead. Just treat it as a final farewell. By noon the next day, I had packed everything. Having taken the cardiotonic, it didn't seem to have much effect. I said to Xie, "Can we move the proposal to earlier in the evening?" She said it was fine. So in the afternoon, I took her to the decorated proposal venue. She walked around the venue. Today, she was also dressed up meticulously. I felt my physical strength wouldn't last much longer. Holding her hand tightly, I took out the ring and knelt on one knee towards her. "Xie, I know proposals are more romantic at night, but I'm afraid I can't hold on until tonight. Will you marry me?" Tears burst from her eyes. She reached out her hand. I slowly slid the ring onto her ring finger. "It's good. It counts as having married her." After I stood up, she hugged me tightly and didn't speak for a long time. I patted her head and said, "Let's go. It's still early enough to get a divorce." She looked up at me, hesitating. "Didn't we agree not to play around? Wait until after the Mid-Autumn Festival." Enduring the constant cycle of stinging pain in my body, I said slowly, "I might not have time tomorrow." She wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes and said, "Jiang Chen, can you tell me the truth?" "What?" She took a deep breath and said, "Nothing. If there's no time, then we won't divorce. We'll talk when you have time." She turned around and said, "I'm leaving first. If you need me, remember to call me." I nodded. Watching her back disappear from view, I covered my chest and knelt on the ground. Bo Yi ran out from the side to support me. He said worriedly, "Let's go. Time to go to the hospital." When I opened my eyes again, it was 2 days later. The nurse told me Bo Yi had a surgery and left first. I picked up the phone on the table. There were no calls or text messages from Xie. Although I looked forward to seeing news from her, this empty interface was the result I wanted. Fortunately, I fulfilled her wish and can leave quietly. The doctor told me I only have these few days left, and told me to eat and drink whatever I want. I looked at my rapidly emaciated body over these past few days with self-mockery. How could I still go out and eat or drink heartily? 4 days later, aside from Bo Yi contacting me, Xie still hadn't looked for me. These days, I both hoped to hear her voice and feared it. I am really useless. The nurse was taking care of me as usual. I felt like I couldn't hold on much longer. In a daze, I said to the nurse, "Nurse Chen, can I trouble you to help me make a call?" Nurse Chen took out her phone and handed it to me. "Sure." I waved my hand, recited a number to her, and reminded her to turn on the speakerphone. I asked her to pretend to be looking for customer service and keep the other person talking. Nurse Chen, seeming to understand, but not quite, dialed the number. The call connected, and Xie voice came through. Nurse Chen glanced at me and stammered, "Hello. I bought a fan and want to return it." On the other end of the phone, Xie said, "Ah. This isn't customer service. Did you dial the wrong number?" Nurse Chen continued, "But the phone number I saw on the platform is this one." Giggles came from the other end of the phone. She continued, "Then recite the shipping address to me. I'll check it for you." Nurse Chen looked at me in surprise, mouthing, "What do I do?" I was also stunned for a moment. Signaling her to make up one randomly, Nurse Chen hemmed and hawed, reciting a random address. On the other end, Xie spoke again. "Sorry, dear, we can't find the address you mentioned here." I signaled Nurse Chen to hang up. Nurse Chen said, "Sorry, I must have made a mistake." Xie stopped Nurse Chen and said, "Ma'am, we found an address here. See if this is it." Nurse Chen didn't speak. A voice came from the other end. "Central Hospital. 3rd floor, room 309. Did I say it right?" The phone hung up. The sound of high heels outside the door got closer and closer. Soon after, Xie was leaning against the doorframe. I signaled Nurse Chen to go out first. Xie crossed her arms and walked toward me step by step. After sitting by my bed, she lifted my chin and said, "Jiang Wan, you really can endure, can't you?" "You've mistaken." Before I could finish, she interrupted me. "What? You still want to pretend? Do you really think I'm stupid and can't recognize you?" Her face was flushed with anger as she looked at me sternly. I lowered my head. "How did you know? My face clearly isn't mine anymore." She lowered her head, playing with her fingernails, and said, "Call me wifey, and I'll tell you." Seeing I didn't respond, she stood up abruptly. "You are really cowardly. You want to waste even the last moments? Then I'm leaving." Wifey. Watching her turn to leave, I blurted it out. She stopped in her tracks. When she turned back, her face was already covered in tears. She ran quickly to the bedside and threw herself onto my quilt, sobbing, "I thought I wouldn't hear you call me wifey until you died." I reached out and patted her head. "How did you know?" She sniffled, wiped her tears, and said proudly, "I'm smart." It turned out she had been suspicious ever since she discovered I logged into the Find My function, but she didn't believe the person in front of her was me until Potato left. I had said, "He was 9 years old." She had never mentioned Potato's age to me, including that car crash. It wasn't a suicide attempt. She was lost in thought thinking about this problem. Damn it, I almost got her killed. She continued to tell me that when the man sent her flowers downstairs, she deliberately accepted them to see my reaction. After all, I used to be a jealous jar, and I had told her that man's character was bad. My violent temper that time confirmed it. Also, when she slept with me, she secretly unbuttoned my clothes and found the teeth marks she had left on my chest before. When she asked me to teach her how to cook and make noodles, she seriously learned every step I taught her. She had memorized the tutorial bloggers I told her about. She compared my operations with the tutorials. I wasn't learning from the phone at all. I looked at her dumbfounded as her little mouth chattered endlessly. "Since when did you become so smart?" she whispered. "You just changed a face. How could I not recognize you?" My voice was a bit hoarse. "Then why didn't you expose me?" she said faintly. "You didn't acknowledge me. I was afraid if I exposed you, you would disappear. You finally came back. I didn't dare to gamble. Why didn't you tell me?" Tears slipped from the corners of her eyes again. I raised my hand to wipe the tears from her face, pulled her into my arms, and said, "I was afraid you couldn't handle my leaving for the second time." This night was the most peaceful night for me. She was by my side, rightfully so. Early the next morning, the doctor making rounds began to pull out the small tube in my arm from the chemotherapy. Watching the thin tube being slowly pulled out of my arm, Shashwar whispered, "Why is it so long?" Not knowing the situation, the doctor responded, "No choice. To live a few more days, he could only use this method." Shashwar didn't speak. Instead, she turned and walked out the door. She went to hide and cry again. I picked up the phone and called Bo Yi, telling him Xiaoxuer knew everything. I asked him to come over in the afternoon. After all, what should be confessed can be confessed now. I planned to tell her his thoughts. At least after I leave, Bo Yi can protect her openly. In the afternoon, Bo Yi arrived at the ward. Xiaoxuer looked at his face, which resembled mine, and was dazed for a long time. "Hubby, who is he?" She turned to look at me. "He's my friend. You helped him before too." Xiaoxuer was still puzzled. I told her that when Bo Yi suffered setbacks in his career and his family passed away, he wandered the streets unkempt all day long. Xiaoxuer had given him a piece of bread and said many encouraging words to him. Since then, he slowly began to pull himself together. He had bought flowers many times, intending to confess to Xiaoxuer, but after I discovered him, I even beat him up once. Knowing she had me by her side, Bo Yi didn't disturb her anymore. Until my plane crash. During the time she thought I died in the crash, she drank herself into a stupor every day. When she encountered someone following her on the way home, she didn't know it was Bo Yi who had been protecting her and chasing away those bad guys. And my face after the car accident was unpresentable. Bo Yi stayed up for several nights to develop a plan, giving me a face that wouldn't attract strange looks. I told Xiaoxuer that if I leave, she can find Bo Yi for anything. He is a good man. Xiaoxuer understood my meaning and said coldly, "You don't need to arrange my future happiness for me." Bo Yi said, "Don't worry. It's okay, I won't disturb you. Just call me if you need anything in the future. We can be friends." Xiaoxuer nodded somewhat awkwardly. After Bo Yi left, Xiaoxuer looked at me with a face full of complaint, blaming me for trying to find a replacement for her. She said it was unfair to everyone. Thinking about it, she was right. I was too anxious. But at least she will have one more friend in the future. After a nap, my body felt surprisingly light, and my spirit was much better. Xiaoxuer said to me, "A miracle is coming. On TV, many cancer patients get better in the end." I looked at her with a smile. I knew this was terminal lucidity. I got up and walked to the window, looking at the withered branches outside, and slowly said, "The snow in the snowfield has melted. I want to go out for a walk." Xiaoxuer smiled all over her face. "Let's go." Let's go. Where does hubby want to go? The amusement park. You say you want to take me every time, but I've never gone. Chinesemanhua jumped up happily and immediately went to find clothes for me. I grew up in an orphanage and was quite poor during my school years, so I had never been to an amusement park. When I grew up, I was busy with work and didn't go either. After meeting Chinesemanhua, she laughed at me when she heard I had never even been to an amusement park and said she would take me when she had time. But I always felt it was childish and refused her. She drove me to the amusement park. Although it was already winter, adults and children were running around in the park, everyone's face beaming with happiness. Except for the children being dragged away by adults, whose faces revealed disappointment and unhappiness. It turns out the amusement park is like my life: happiness, passion, disappointment, fleeting. Chinesemanhua pulled me under the Ferris wheel. She told me that people who finish a full circle on the Ferris wheel together can be together forever. I accompanied her onto the Ferris wheel. I leaned on her shoulder, smelling the fragrance from her hair, feeling very sleepy. Hubby, when you get better, let's have a baby and bring him here too. Okay? I opened my mouth slowly. Okay. I softly instructed, wifey. If you like the Ferris wheel, buy it. The property procedures are all done. She didn't respond to me. I only heard the sound of her swallowing saliva. I continued. You don't need to remember me too much in the future. If you are about to forget my face, the next person who loves you will look like me. Remember, she sniffled and pointed to the descending Ferris wheel. The Ferris wheel is almost done with a circle. After it finishes, we can be together forever. I nodded, then my vision became a bit blurry, and I slowly closed my eyes. Idiot, do you think I don't watch short videos? Others say that those who ride the Ferris wheel together will break up. I don't know if I said that sentence out loud. I only know the sound of her crying came from beside my ear. I couldn't respond anymore. She said, just a little bit more, and we would have finished the circle. That's the end of today's story. Thank you so much for joining Luvella Recap. Don't forget to subscribe to Luvella Recap so you can be the first to enjoy our newest stories. Have a wonderful day ahead. Goodbye, and I'll see you in the next video.